It's Wednesday, the 17th of August, 2022. Welcome to the Fast Five by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we've got 5 cracking stories to get through today, so let's jump into it. Story number 1, BHP has unveiled its second biggest profit ever, and shareholders will receive another big dividend after an absolute ripper of a 2022 financial year.
The underlying profit of $21.3 billion was up 39% on last year, second only to 2011. But back then, BHP was a much bigger company, so I reckon yesterday's result is even better than that. Now, it's paying a dividend of $16.3 billion. Mike Henry, the chief executive, said about 70% of Australians will benefit from that, either directly, holding shares, or through their super funds. The result was full of big numbers, one that I think is really worth pointing out. The big Australian paid $17.3 billion in taxes and royalties. That's about 10% of all corporate tax paid in Australia. Commodity prices helped. Iron ore, coal, so too copper. But explaining the mega result on the back of commodity prices alone is selling BHP and its management short. Under Mike Henry, the company is focused on megatrends: population growth, the need for food, transition to renewables, rise of electric vehicles, urbanisation, and the company's positioning itself, either via takeovers or the sale of some of its businesses, for the future. One thing I would say about this result, though, it's probably peak earnings for BHP because commodity prices are certainly falling. There are also cost pressures, not the least labour costs. And of course, there's plenty of economic and geopolitical risk in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, we're not an investment podcast, so make sure you speak to a professional advisor before making any investment decisions. On to story number 2, Sean. We might have a new government, but all the attention in Canberra at the moment seems to be on the former Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, because he appointed himself to 5 additional portfolios when he was in the top job. 3 we heard about on Monday: finance, health and resources. 2 others emerged yesterday: Home Affairs and Treasury. Now he's under pressure to resign from Parliament.
Yes, the current Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, called it an extraordinary and unprecedented trashing of our democracy, saying it was government by deception. But the really big criticism came from former colleagues of Scott Morrison. Frontbencher Karen Andrews, who was Home Affairs Minister in the last government, demanded that Mr Morrison resign from politics. She, along with 3 others, didn't know that Mr Morrison was a shadow minister. Now, constitutional law experts said it shouldn't happen in a democracy. For his part, Scott Morrison said he would have disclosed his assumptions of the portfolios had he needed to use the additional powers. He claims to have put in safeguards just in case, given it was an extraordinary time. However, mostly this is about a total lack of transparency. The fact that ministers didn't know the Prime Minister was their shadow is not a good look.
All right, on to story number 3, Sean. And I know that you have gotten on board with TikTok in a big way recently. Only watching videos at this stage, not making them, but we live in hope. Anyway, Australia's competition and consumer watchdog will investigate the state of competition now across social media companies, including TikTok, Meta, Twitter, Snapchat, and new entrants like Be Real.
It's a really big issue, and we've seen this in financial services where people are saying we're following the advice of finfluencers. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission wants to consider potential issues, including how businesses are using paid influencers and sponsored posts to advertise to consumers, along with barriers to entry faced by new platforms. It's looking for feedback on scams and misleading content as well. It'll form part of the ACCC's 6th interim report into the global tech giants.
All right, story number 4. Australia's top 5 universities have all risen in the highly regarded academic ranking of world universities.
Yeah, they sure did. University of Melbourne is the best of the Australian institutions at 32, then University of Queensland at 47, University of Sydney at 60, UNSW, New South Wales at 64, and Monash at 75. 2 others made the top 100, ANU at 79 and the University of Western Australia at 99. These rankings are always interesting to watch. They're pretty much based on research. US universities take 15 of the top 20 places. Harvard's number 1, then Stanford, and then MIT.
All right, story number 5. How about this one, Sean? Apple has told employees they must return to the office in September for at least 3 days a week.
Chief Executive Tim Cook said it was needed to preserve the in-person collaboration that is so essential to the Apple culture. Everyone needs to be in on a Tuesday and a Thursday and one other day determined by managers. It's really interesting. Different tech companies are providing different guidelines. Atlassian employees don't have to come in at all. Meta's Mark Zuckerberg is promoting remote work, but Alphabet, parent of Google, requires corporate staff to be in the office 3 days a week. It's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, it sure is. There we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It's Wednesday, the 17th of August, 2022. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts, including a bunch of interviews and things, including today's chat with the CEO of Drone Shield, which is a company that actually makes equipment to protect against the security threat of drones. It's a fascinating one. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.